Now, as you can see, I've skipped the process a lot actually. I've been coloring all the little areas here with the basic color on my drawing, and I've even started doing some of the shadows. What I want to do now is tell you a little about the importance of using the layers for your coloring. Because when I first started out, I was cheating a bit. I could, paint both the umbrella and the blanket on the same layer. But then I got a problem when I was starting to do my shadows. Because if I put a shadow on top of that layer, I was painting shadow for my blanket down here. That was also going on top of the umbrella. So you just can't cheat, because it will make a mess and you just can't find your way around it. So make a layer for every little color you're doing, even if you think that it doesn't matter. It does matter in the end. And I want to show you here that when you are making layers for your shadow, you have to put it right on top of the area that you are working with, the layers for the area that you're working with. For example, if you're working with the blanket here, I have the 2 blanket layers, one for every color, and then I place the shadow layer on top of that. And a little tip from me is that to write with big letters when you're naming your shadow layers, because then it's just easier to find. And it's very important to find some kind of structure that you can use for yourself. And again, if you place your shadow layer just on top of layers for the area you're working with, you won't get lost in, for example, having the blanket shadow on top of the umbrella shadow and stuff like that. So find your own kind of structure to it, and it will make it a lot easier for you. Now I'll show you how I do my shadows. For instance, if I were to make shadows on my sun here, I choose my sun layer, and then I write sun shadow like that. And then to find a great color for this, I go over here and find the eyedrop tool and just click on that color, and then Photoshop picks that color up and put it down here in your color palette square. And to find the right color, I'll just click a bit longer down here, and I find a color that is a little darker but in the same kind of shade, so I use that. And when I'm drawing shadows, I use a drop shadow tool, and you find that by clicking on the arrow and get your list here, and you have a drop shadow brush like that. And then you just choose a size and make sure that the opacity is low and the flow also, because that gives a kind of feather-like feeling to it. And the great thing with working with opacity is that if you just draw once, you almost can't see it, but if you draw on top of it a few times, it gets darker. So you can really work with that feather-like feeling doing that. And then I always, when I'm working with something I want to have a bit of a depth, I go down and find a nice bright color here and just give it a little twinge up here, and that makes it a bit more round and give it a bit of a depth. And when you're working with shadows, you have to know just a little bit about the basic rules for shadows. I don't use them 100%, but just the basic rules. For instance, like when you have the sun here, that's the light and it goes out like that. So when you look at this umbrella, you have the light on top here and the dark down here, and you know that the umbrella is giving some kind of shadow down here on your blanket, and I'm gonna have a shadow on the sand also. So just some basic rules, just to know where the light is coming from, and then use that as some kind of guideline to where your shadows are. And I just want to show you one more thing. I'm trying to work on the skin shadow over here, and I actually find that a bit hard. First of all, the color. I don't like the color that I found, so I just erase that. The skin color is always difficult, I find. I mean, the basic color is hard to find, and the shadow color is even harder, because you know, when I click on this, it kind of green all the other colors here. And you know, I try to find maybe a brown one, but you know, it can make it look like she's rolled around in the sand and gotten a bit dirty. So it's a bit hard, I think, to find the right color for the skin shadow. And also, I don't know, maybe because we're more aware of how people look. I'm always more, you know, I always criticize my own shadows on people more on my drawings, because it just doesn't look right, you know. And is the shadow over here, or is it down here? I mean, I know the light is coming from that direction, so the shadow should be more over here, but at the same time I want it to be shown that her arm, this is actually her armpit that you can see, because she has twisted her arm a bit. So you know, shadows can be a real struggle to work with if you're not, you know, really skilled about it. And I have to say, I know the basics, but I'm not a professional in how to do the shadows. So you have to play around with that and figure out what works and what doesn't. I think actually I found a pretty okay color here, so I just have to work around with that. Well, I think I will skip to the finished drawing, and you can see how it ended up. Now I've skipped again, and I'm almost done with this drawing, for now anyway. I always, you know, save it and then go back to it again, you know, after a few weeks or something, to look at it again, because when you've been looking at your drawing for a while, you think, oh, it's okay, it's great, but when you then open it again, you can see that that was not quite right and stuff like that. But I'm stopping for now. I think I just want to show you one more thing, because the last thing you want to do when you think you've drawn everything and your shadows are done, you want to go to every shadow layer and check if you have cleaned it up. Like for instance, this girl's skin shadow, you can see that down here there are shadows underneath the outline, so I'll just clean that up a bit. And just, you know, do it with every layer and check them and see if you have done everything the way you wanted it to be. But now I think I'll call it done for this time. So I'll just show you what to do when you're saving it, because now you got all these layers. And first of all, I always save it as a Photoshop project, so I've called it number 2 and save like that. And now I want to make it a picture that I can use, so I'll just go down here and make sure that I don't need this layer, the white layer that was on the bottom there, so I'll just remove that. Then I go up here again and merge visible like that, or I could just do this, flatten image, discard hidden layers. Oh yeah, you can do that. So now I've got my picture, but I want to, you know, adjust it a bit, because I want it to just be to the outline there. So I'll just cut it. I'll take my rectangular tool and do like this, maybe like that, and I'll just click Ctrl X. I'll make a new layer or new project and Ctrl V. So now I have the picture I want. So I'll go up here under File and Save As, and then you have to click on this one, and I often save it as a PNG because it keeps the colors when you got a lot of colors like on this picture. So like that, and I'll just call it summer. And like that. So now you really have your picture, and you can put it everywhere you want and post it in a forum or where you want to use it. So that was it, and thanks for joining in. I hope that you could use some of the tips that I've been giving you. Bye bye.